Let's get started with our banana loaf cake. Here's the milk and the lemon juice which we stirred in together, and we're going to leave it for 5 to 10 minutes while it curdles. Meanwhile, you can mash the bananas. It doesn't need to be a perfect puree, but just enough so that it incorporates faster into our mix later. Mash, mash, mash. Also, something to note is that all these ingredients that are listed below need to be at room temperature. Almost done with the bananas here. Mix, 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 and done. Next, we take the egg and whisk it in a little bit so that it's easier to incorporate it to the final mix as well, like so. Now, let's get started with preparing the actual mix. We'll first take the dark brown sugar and take our butter, which will be at room temperature, softened. And here we are using a handheld whisk to prepare the batter. A handheld whisk makes it much easier to prepare cake batters. You'll notice that at first it's a bit darker, and then as we move forward, the mix becomes lighter. Next step, when we add the egg, you'll again notice that the mix is a little runny, like so. But as we go on, it will become light and fluffy again. Here we go. It's getting more airier. As the whisk moves, air gets incorporated into the mix, and so you will notice it's paler. In with the bananas that we've mashed before. Vanilla extract. I like using a pure vanilla extract. And then we whisk that in together. So while the bananas might have been a little clumpy before, but does the job here. But if they're very big lumps, they don't really break down in the process later on either. Now, this is all our dry ingredients: the flour, the baking soda, the salt, and the baking powder mixed in together into the mix. And now we bring in our whisk. Notice that we'll use a very light touch to incorporate this in. The idea is not to beat it a lot, we just incorporate it in. Otherwise, the mix becomes a little dense. This is our milk, which we've already curdled with a little bit of lemon juice. Very quick whisk, because once we've added the flour, we don't want to overbeat the mixture. So these last two stages, we just want to incorporate it. Here we go. Mix is looking good. And now I like the banana loaf to have some sort of nuts in it. Walnuts or pecan nuts have always been a favorite. And so at this stage, we don't want to flatten the mix out. So we won't be using the whisk anymore, but just stir it in with a spatula or a wooden spoon, whatever is easier, and sort of like fold it in. Checking the texture, looks good. And that's it, the mix is ready. Making sure that we scrape out any of that strays from the side as well. Spooning it into a loaf pan. You might notice we've already lined it with a little bit of parchment and oil so that the cake, when it's done, doesn't stick. to the bottom of the pan, and it's easier to release that way. That's it. We'll flatten this out now and it'll go into the oven. The temperature is 170 degrees C, 30 minutes, but it can vary depending on your oven. We'll talk about some of these technical things more in our other videos, so they can be referenced to make baking easier as you learn more. But this is a nice easy cake to begin with. There it is, the oven's been preheated. So once it's done, here's a little test. If you poke it with a knife or a wooden skewer or a toothpick, it'll come out clean, but notice this little crumb, but your hand comes off clean. This is a cake that's well done. When the cake is completely cool, we run a spatula down the side. Remember that we've already prepped the tin with a bit of oil, so it's easier to release. And that's it. Once the cake is completely cool and you've done this to loosen the sides, once you tap it, it should fall right out. So nice even mix which has been baked properly. Here we go. This is a happy moment. And that's it. That's your banana loaf. We'll leave you to enjoy. All prepped and done. You can slice it up this way. And let's have a look at the crumb. That's it. That's the crumb we're looking for. All done and ready to eat.